Hello and welcome. My name is Deborah Gross. I am the City Councilwoman for District 7. Welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's public hearing for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, relative to Bill 2022-0088. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 88, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title 9, zoning Article 1, Section 90203, zoning map, by changing from R1AH, residential single unit attached high density, to LNC, local neighborhood commercial, a portion of one parcel in the Allegheny County block and lot system 9th Ward.
For the record, we are joined today remotely by, I think, council members, and other members may be joining us shortly. Our first order of business will be an introduction and presentation by Kevin Kunek from the city's planning department. And we also have representatives from the zoning amendment applicant. And then after that, we'll have testimony from our registered speakers. Madam Clerk, do we have the city planning testimony remotely? I see, yes, Director Lehman. Hello, welcome. Director Lehman, please identify yourself for our public and move forward with your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Corey Lehman. I'm the zoning administrator and assistant director with the planning department. And with me is Kevin Kunak, who is a senior planner in the Division of Zoning and Development Review. I'm here just for backup. If there are any questions at this point, I'll turn it over to Kevin to make our staff presentation. Thank you.
Who are we supposed to have on mic? Do we have someone on mute who's supposed to be unmuted?
I think we have Kevin coming up.
Mr. Kunek, can you hear me? I don't think he can hear us. Does anyone have Mr. Kunek's cell phone where he can text him or message him on online? I do not.
I do. I'm going to message him on Teams.
Yeah, while you message him, and I'm not sure if you also have the presentation up. And if our INP is there, make sure that everyone has share screen so that Mr. Kunek connects with us. He can put his presentation up on Zoom for us. And I just want to also remind the registered speakers that to stay with us, and we'll just have this brief presentation for the city planning department, and then I'll be calling your names after that so that you can be heard for the record.
I'm so sorry, Madam Councilman. We are working through the technical challenges, checking the audio settings for Kevin. Hopefully he can hear us soon. It looks like he just tried to leave and he'll try to come back, and hopefully that will resolve our challenge.
Most of us can relate. I've personally had over the last year and a half that council was remote entirely, had challenges getting either my camera on or my sound on. So it's definitely one of the challenges of our hybrid system.
I'm going to ask him to lend me the presentation if he's not able to get it working.
So let us know if you need us to recess, or if you want to see if you can get it up on screen. We'll just ask our viewers to bear with us and be patient.
Kevin, can you hear us? All right. It doesn't look like it. So we'll get the presentation here, the report, in just a second. All right.
If you're just tuning in to the City Council public hearing for Bill 2022-0088, we are having technical difficulties and we're waiting for our presentation.
Good
Okay.
afternoon, members. Am I working?
We can hear you.
Mr. Kunak, can you hear us?
Yes, I apologize. Different location. I'm not sure what's causing that one. Sorry.
You're clear now. If you want to introduce yourself for the record and try to put up your presentation, we're happy to hear from you.
Great. My name is Kevin Kunak, Senior Planner with the Department of City Planning. This is in relation to city planning application DCP MPZC 2021-01300. An application filed for a change in zoning for 234 Ellis Street, parcel 49-S-137 in the Bloomfield neighborhood from 1 R1AH residential single unit attached to LNC local neighborhood attached, local neighborhood commercial. Apologies. Enactment of this rezoning will permit the involved property to be developed for uses permitted in the LNC, local neighborhood commercial. No application for development has been submitted to the planning department. There are no requests to the zoning board of adjustment for this application. Property owners within 150 feet of the proposed zone change area were notified of the proposal. Notice of this planning commission hearing and the city council hearing were mailed to abutting property owners 21 days in advance, posted on the Department of City Planning website, and as well posted on site. A development activities meeting, a DAM, with the registered community organization for this area, the Bloomfield Development Corporation, was held on November 1st, 2021. That meeting report was attached to the documentation sent to council members. At the Planning Commission on January 25th, 2022, the commission recommended approval to City Council for this zone change petition with the following two conditions. That an application for future development at the development site that includes this subject parcel be referred to the Planning Commission as a site plan review in accordance with the provisions of the zoning code section 922.04.c. And a second condition that another development activities meeting shall be required prior to any hearing at Planning Commission regarding future development at this development site. That is a summary of the report from the city planning.
That's all you have, Mr. Kunek? All done?
Yes.
I'm going to take that as an affirmative. I think that's all we have from planning.
Correct.
Thank you. And I have that on my notes that it's a presentation from Mr. Kunek and applicant representatives. Is that what we have on the agenda? Do you have, is there a presentation from the applicant?
I see Mr.
Here,
Bishop.
room.
I see Mr. Bishop as a panelist. If he has a presentation, he can share that. I also have the presentation that was presented at the Planning Commission, ready to go as well.
Your mic back. There we go, Madam Clerk. We've got our applicant for the project here in chambers with us. And do you also have a presentation that they're going to put on the screen for us?
I have the ability, I logged in
Great.
via the Zoom meeting to hopefully make it seamless.
Your microphone is there in front of you and it's green is good, but if you move it a little closer to you, they're kind of sensitive. And so you can be heard. And what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself and your affiliation for the public.
My name is Philip Bishop. We are the owners representing Bloomfield Bridge Associates, and employed by Echo Realty. We are the owners of the property and the applicant for the matter at hand today.
Wonderful. You can share your presentation with us and let me know if you have any technical difficulties there.
Right, assuming, and I'm seeing on the screen that it popped up, we are good to go. I also have hard copies.
Thank you.
We would ask that this be made part of the official record for this public hearing. The matter at hand today is a zone change request. I haven't already explained the property, the technical aspects of it. To give you a visualization, this is the former SureSave property at Ellis Street and Liberty Avenue in Bloomfield. It comprises 5 parcels, totaling about 2 acres. We purchased the property back in February of 2020. And then obviously everyone knows what happened in March. However, we were able to get a new grocery user in the site after we purchased it shortly thereafter in July. It's currently community market operating out of the old SureSave space. Our request today is focusing on one parcel. It's 2,970 square feet. It's about 3% of the total property. It is a single family house, as you'll see, that the previous owner did not use for residential purposes. It was part of the business. He would use it to stay overnight when he had early morning deliveries, etc. You can see here in the presentation, the property in question is located on Ellis Street. The rest of the surrounding site outlined in red, as Mr. Kunak noted, is zoned properly for our proposed use, and I'll get to that in a minute. Just to bring everyone up to speed.
Pull that mic up.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. This is a current zoning map. As you can see, the surrounding area and the majority, 97% of the property is currently zoned LNC. The property in question is a sliver on Ellis Street, which is currently R1A. We're requesting a zoning change from R1A to LNC. As we all know, but to make sure I cover all the bases, this is the criteria as outlined, as well as staff is aware of this at the Planning Commission. All of these 9 items, not every single one of them have to be considered, but we certainly are trying to make sure that we are considering in this application all of these criteria that the council has to consider when granting zone changes. I'll speak more detailed on specifically item number 1, consistency of the proposal with adopted plans and policies, as well as compatibility and character of the neighborhood, which I think is critical in this recommendation and request. And finally, as you heard, recommendations of staff. We did receive recommendation for approval from Planning Commission. To give you a visual, this is a bird's eye view looking down from Liberty. The single family house there is outlined in yellow, and then some ground level shots along the street. Again, this was a business use, not really residential use, for the number of years that the previous owner owned it. It is currently vacant. We have not used it for any purposes since purchasing it back in February of 2020. One of the keys, as you all know, and we certainly like to do things the right way when we go into a project like this, is meeting with the community. We are fortunate here to have the registered community organization, that being Bloomfield Development Corp., a very active community organization. In addition, since this site has been looked at by a number of previous applicants who never decided to purchase it, they went through an exercise back in 2020 and earlier in 2019 and put together development guidelines. I say this because a number of the specific points in the issue at hand today relative to vehicular access is the reason we are asking for this zone change request. Specifically, the desire in the study and the report from BDC having separate access points on both Ella and Howley Street. It's kind of hard to see, but the vehicular entry and parking, item 1.4 in the study, we are trying to be true to that recommendation in our design, which you'll see in a minute. This is a preliminary layout of what we're proposing to do. For those of you who know Echo Realty, we own primarily grocery anchored shopping centers here in Pittsburgh and other areas. We are proposing to keep, which we think is a vital asset to the community, the grocery store. Similar size and function. It'll be a full service grocery store located on Liberty Avenue, along with some ancillary retail, parking, and then approximately 190 residential units on top, or what's known as a mixed use development. The question at hand really gets down to the intricacies of the code. And when we met with Mr. Lehman and Kudak previously in a pre-application meeting, there was a number of ways to tackle this. We thought the best way was to go and request, which we're here for today, a zone change request. The issue at hand is the use of the property in question. I may note that we are not wanting to build any additional density on this property. We are not wanting to encroach on any of the setbacks that we'll be obligated to comply with. However, since it's a ancillary use to the grocery and retail and residential, technically under the residential zoning, we could not use this driveway. However, at the same time, as I mentioned, wanting to be true to the community input and studies that were done by the Bloomfield Development Corporation, this, if you recall, was one of the highlights in that report, to have access both on Ella and Howley Street. Hence the dilemma, or reason we're here today. We see it as more of a housekeeping matter, but certainly are sensitive to the process and going through and requesting this zone change here today. We could, I would point out, do the development without this zone change and have all of the traffic come in and out on Howley Street. We've already done some preliminary traffic studies that would indicate that that could be done, but will have greater impact on the surrounding neighborhood than having separate entrances and exits on either side of the property, again, as outlined in the Bloomfield Development Corporation study. Albeit will be a matter of future hearings, and we are wholly agreeable to the recommendations of Planning Commission and staff to go through another dam development meeting, as well as have a full review with the Planning Commission for this application. We will be dealing with things like affordability, which we certainly support. Councilwoman Gross, in your recommendation to have this included in the overlay district, we are fully aware of that and support that, and we will proceed accordingly. We are also proposing to make this a lead project. But again, I think that's for another public hearing. The reason we're here today is to discuss and present our request for the zone change. This is just an after picture showing, again, the 3% of the property we would hope to convert to LNC for the use of a driveway. Because under the current rules, the ancillary use of that driveway would not allow us to develop that as such. This just gives you an idea. The driveway off of Ella Street goes down and underground to an underground parking structure. And then the other entrance on top goes back out to Howley Street. This just sort of brings all of the issues I pointed out so far, the site guidelines, the orientation of the site as recommended in the Bloomfield study, the vehicular entry as recommended in the Bloomfield Development Corporation guidelines, as well as giving you an idea of what the site may look like once we get through the planning process. We're cognizant, obviously, of good development, wide sidewalks, open space, green areas, lead, as I mentioned before. Again, this is step one of a process that we'll be undertaking over the next 12 months. This just gives you a little more detail. Again, the line on Ella and the driveway. On top of it, there would be landscaping. Again, we're not proposing to build anything on this property in question. It just so happened it's the driveway that goes underground into the garage for the proposed use. A cross section showing you what it may look like. Again, heights, density, are all the things that we'll be getting into with Planning Commission and planning staff. But for benefits of questions that may be asked, I had that included. And then finally, the community and city outreach. This is a timeline from when we started back in February. Again, you can see we've had numerous meetings already with Bloomfield Development Corporation. We have already met with the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and had a scoping meeting for the traffic study I mentioned. We had a pre-application with Corey and staff last August. And then we had our development activities meeting back in November, which, you know, I'm happy to report 88 people showed up at that meeting. There was some good back and forth, some good insight. Again, all those things will be taken into consideration when we advance this plan forward. Finally, as mentioned in making my presentation as part of the official record, as well as received by Planning Commission, January 24th, 2022, Bloomfield Development Corporation did send in a letter of support with the same two conditions that Kevin mentioned in his report, us going through another DAM meeting, as well as making this application a full review at Planning Commission. We support those recommendations, and we're also appreciative, again, to have Bloomfield Development Corporation and the engagement thus far, and look forward to additional meetings, not only with them, but the surrounding community. That is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. We will now move on to testimony from registered speakers. I'm going to give our speakers a moment to get back to their phones. And I'm going to remind them that they will be needing, I believe, to hit *6 if they're using a telephone, calling in when it beeps and asks you to unmute. If you're on Zoom, you just click the unmute button, and our staff will have you unmuted as well and ready to speak. We have 4 registered speakers. They will be allowed 3 minutes each, and I'm going to read all 4 names just so you can get ready for your turn. I have number 1, Christina Howell, number 2, Jody Lincoln, number 3, Ikahana Halmakina, and number 4, Philip Wilkinson. And so we'll start with Christina Howell. Christina, are you there? You can unmute yourself.
I'm here.
Okay, will you identify yourself for the record, please? And you have 3 minutes.
Christina Howell, Executive Director of Bloomfield Development Corporation. I'm here today to, sorry, someone's yelling at me, to register Bloomfield Development Corporation's conditional support for this zoning change. The conditions that have been attached were recommended by Planning Commission, and so those have been duly transferred to Council. We see the value in the zoning change, as Mr. Bishop stated, that it allows the relocation of the ingress-egress points off of Liberty, which will lower the incidences that, or near misses that are experienced currently in that area, and will minimize the disruption, we believe at this point, to the neighborhood by allowing entrance and exit on Ella as well for the residences. We have heard a lot of communication from many residents that there is concern about queuing of cars along Ella Street and other smaller issues or other issues, and we will be looking into that. But generally speaking, most of the issues that folks have brought forward to date center around things that are detail that have not yet been discussed by ECHO or have not been approached yet in that development. So as those happen, we will be reviewing those with ECHO Realty and with the neighborhood. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Next, we have Jody Lincoln. Ms. Lincoln, could you unmute yourself, please? And introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, Jody Lincoln. I'm a Bloomfield resident. Thanks for the time and appreciate the presentation from the applicants. Yeah, just want to reiterate a lot of the sentiments that Christina Howell just mentioned. You know, this zoning change, I think, makes sense for the plan, but we're excited to see the continued plans and more details for the project and work with the developers on especially our, you know, mobility, transportation, safety issues around the site and increasing affordable housing. So looking forward to the additional dams and the Planning Commission review, and want to reiterate that we hope that those conditions are included in the approval of this zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ikahana Halmakina, followed by Philip Wilkinson. Do we not have Ikahana Halmakina? No? All right. Mr. Wilkinson also is not testifying today. Do we have anyone that is not pre-registered? Is anyone in chambers? No one in chambers is coming forward to speak. So that concludes our public testimony, Madam Clerk. Okay. Having asked all speakers have had their turn and called on for members' comment, which is our notes here for me, having exhausted the business of this public hearing, this meeting is adjourned.